Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of Field Notes, Insights and Observations for the Travel Marketer. My name is Eric Hulkern. On today's episode, we are talking with Scott Larson, President and CEO of Visit Central Oregon. And as I said, our guest on this episode of the podcast, Scott Larson. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
It is great to see you. How's the conference going?
It's been fantastic so far. It's really great to be around so many wonderful friends and colleagues.
One of the interesting things about these conferences, and so nationwide, these governors' conferences all kind of happen within the 6 weeks period, but it's always interesting the energy that you feel in a room like this.
Sure.
And then how difficult it is to continue that, right? Because you get back to the office and you're checking your email and you're doing your things and you forget that like there's a whole community that you could be like, hey, phone a friend. Do you feel that when these are over? And, do you ever think about how that could extend past conferences and have that same sort of camaraderie with friends?
I do. I mean, I really challenge my team when we go to things like this to... There's a lot of learnings and lessons and exciting things you take away. There's a lot of great energy. Everyone leaves fired up. But, pick one or two things, right? See if you can pick it to one or two light bulb aha moments that you really want to dig in on. And then let's build behind that. And let's put the momentum behind that. And I find that helps us carry that momentum forward. I've also gotten really good at making to-do lists because I feel like I leave these conferences with 15 ideas and I don't want to lose any of them.
Yeah.
I need to prioritize, and so I end up going back with a ton of stuff to do, but it's all exciting stuff.
This is probably a ticky-tacky kind of question, but specific to what we all do for a living, what is your go-to way to keep those to-do lists? Is that a physical list? Is that a digital list? Like what tools are you using?
Oh man, it's all of the above. I've got a notes app on my phone. I've got my notebook. Sometimes I'll email reminders to myself, and if I have thoughts. But being in this position, my attention's going 500 miles an hour all the time, and so a lot of times I feel like if I don't write it down right away, it won't come back, or it will, and I'll have missed my window.
Sure.
So I live and die by like notes, calendars, alarms. I use all those tools to make sure I stay on track.
So let's talk about Central Oregon, because obviously that's why we're here, know, and one of the things that we try and do in this podcast is kind of boil down into a simple syrup and like share with other DMOs and destinations like the learnings of what's going on in a specific place. And one of the through lines here obviously is accessibility. So I'd love to ask you about Wheel the World for a second. And what is your current work? Because obviously everybody here sort of has a different relationship with them, and like where are you in that process, and what has it been like? And more importantly, I would love it if you had some thoughts as what made this state so perfect to be the first verified state that's right? Because there's something here that when you arrive, you're like, oh yeah, of course they are, right?
Right. It's in the culture.
Of course it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a perfect fit for it. It's sort of baked into who we are as a people in the state of Oregon. But, as it relates to Central Oregon, I don't think we can take credit for being the pioneers. I think that goes to the coast. But I know that we were one of the early adopters and really getting behind it. And, for the most part, businesses were pretty receptive to it. You have to get over the barrier of... you have to help businesses get over the barrier that this is not, everybody thinks like, am I going to get sued? Am I going to get investigated?
Right.
Like, is this a trap? And you sort of have to help people get past that it's really, we're just trying to open more doors for more people. And for the most part, businesses were pretty receptive to it. I think the ones that weren't were the ones who were, either in that camp of like, what does this mean for me? Or in the camp of, I'm not sure the ROI is there yet behind this. What we've been working on, and we're hoping to have this launched or wrapped or whatever later in the year, but sort of like my vision behind this is I would love to see us create a microsite effectively on our website that leverages that partnership with Wheel the World and the work that we've done there, the verified status and things like that. But I would love to create a microsite that's really designed and engineered for those with disabilities. I think that like right now you can go to a site and you can search for wheelchair accessible mountain bike trails, and it's going to pop up a blog that says here's the 5 best mountain biking trails around Bend, and one of the 5 is wheelchair accessible. But that requires a little bit more work. What I sort of envision is how can we take this, and you think about, you'd do this with an event venue or a hotel where you'd search for a hotel room, and then you'd say, okay, I need this amenity, and I need this amenity, and I need this amenity, this proximity, whatever. You'd do that with conferences, or if you're booking a venue. How can we apply that to a booking engine on our site for ADA accessibility? How can we do that with a microsite for blog content that the entirety of the blog is focused around that, or the entirety of, I want to go hiking, this is my skill level, this is my need. You click those filters, here's your trails. How can we really embrace that and lean into that? And it's not just a good business decision, it's a good moral decision.
Right.
And when we talk about, my perspective is interesting because I'm one of 2, and my brother has a very long list of mental and physical disabilities. He's on the spectrum and a bunch of other things. So I have a lot of firsthand experience with this, but like beyond that, let's talk about the gray wave that's coming. Like this is going to be a thing in 10 years, if not sooner. And so it really checks a lot of boxes. I think it's great that we're early on this right now. The question is then, how do we, I think we could do a better job in terms of producing a stronger ROI behind it. And so the question now is like, how do we leverage this? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And run with it even further.
One of the things, leading into this interview, we asked everybody what's kind of top of mind, and what was top of mind to you is this idea of the power of travel, someplace that has a lot of amenities that people want to come do, and we'll talk about the scenic bikeways in a second because I want to talk about that. But and then up against challenges like international headwinds or something like that. So, where is your head at with 2026? How are you feeling about it? What are you looking forward to, and what is not necessarily keeping you up at night, but strategically keeping your focus on figuring out that issue, right?
Yeah, your timing of that question is good because I gave a similar presentation a couple weeks ago to the Sun River Chamber for their annual breakfast meeting. And there's certainly plenty of headwinds ahead of us right now, but there's also a lot of optimism too, right? The tourism economics forecast is good. Not to get super nerdy, but you want to talk about the bifurcated economy or the trifurcated economy. The affluent people are still spending. Domestic travel demand is still high. Demand remains elevated. People still really want to get out and travel. And the other thing I think with Central Oregon that's interesting is values relative, right? Like, I'm not going to say that a stay at one of our resorts is inexpensive, but it might appear inexpensive to another mountain town in the West, right?
Yeah.
And so you may see that shift as somebody says, I can't afford 4 nights in Big Sky anymore, but I can afford 4 nights in Central Oregon, and I really want a 4-night stay. And so, you may see some of those changes, but I think the overarching thing for us to sort of pay attention to beyond consumer confidence, that's a big one, is just sort of like, I've heard people refer to it as just sort of the overall ick factor of the state of the world and the country and everything right now.
Yeah.
And that, generally speaking, gives people pause. And when people pause, they don't spend and they don't plan, and that doesn't bode well. Right. And so it's turbulence is a good word to use. We're fortunate in Central Oregon in that we're well positioned to be both a fly and a drive market. We've got campaigns, we can flip them on and off. And so whether we're touching the I-5 corridor in Portland or we're touching Seattle and San Francisco, like we can very easily flip those on and off based on where things are at. So I think we're really well positioned, but it may be a challenging year.
Do you feel that, or you just like, because I can't tell the way that you're answering it. Like, if you feel that, or you're just like, I don't know, maybe that could be a thing, but I'm ready for the other way.
I think for really the last 5 years, I feel like there's been a learning curve of I remember when we used to build marketing plans that were like 3 months and 6 months long, and it was like set it and forget it, and we'll just check in on the metrics every couple weeks. And then I remember COVID, where we changed our marketing strategy every week, if not every other week, based on where the consumer sentiment was at. And so, I mean, I guess for us, the takeaway is we're prepared for anything. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Good.
When did I give that presentation to Sun River? 2 or 3 weeks ago? Like, we hadn't engaged with Iran at that point.
Sure.
And so like there's a whole domino effect of that, and what does that mean? Will that be done tomorrow? Will it be done in a year? I don't know.
So let me cut you off for just a half second, though, because I want to sit here for a second, because I have a sense about you, and I want to pull this out of you. Is as someone at the top of an organization,
sure,
how do you stay steady amongst the headwinds, right? Because you seem, I don't know you, I met you 7 minutes ago, but like just the way that you're talking about these, you seem fairly unflappable. And I'm wondering like what lessons can be gleaned from that, of like not reacting to all of that and letting maybe a breath or two happen before you make a decision. Like, do you track with how okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like some things that really help me in terms of guiding the team on that front, control the controllables. Focus on what we can control, let go of what we can't. I have no power over what happens in DC. I have no power over whether or not it snows. I tried as hard as I could to work with our politicians this short session, and we got the outcome that we did. Focus on controlling what you can control. It's always generally wise to pause and think before immediately responding. And I guess the other thing that I've always observed in myself over my life is I'm generally a glass is half full kind of person. There is always a silver lining somewhere. It's not really a failure if you get a chance to learn from something. And so where's the silver lining, right? We didn't get the outcome we wanted in the legislative session, but that's probably a great opportunity for us to rebuild or strengthen a ton of government relationships at the local level. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And so there's always, I think there's a silver lining everywhere if we look for it, and we just have to remind ourselves to be open to that.
All right, so Scott, I want to shift to something a little bit more positive, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk specifically about the scenic bikeways, right? It's kind of a first of its kind thing. But my question is not necessarily why is it the first, but my question is, go back 120 steps before it becomes a reality, and what is the thought process to make that a reality? And the reason I'm asking this question is that so many tourist locations might have a thing that they're good at, but not profound at. And I'm wondering, there was a decision to make these things a profound, life-changing biking experience, right? And what went into that, and how could another DMO go, oh, well, we have these waterfalls or this trail or this waterfront or whatever, let's go from good to great, pardon the pun, and like make it the thing that we are profound at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just embracing what you have that, I look at that as something that's a little bit of a unique differentiator, right? And once you can identify what those things are for your destination, you go all in on those things, right? You go all in, you don't go halfway, and really leveraging those. And that brings partnerships to the table, that brings new relationships to the table, that brings new campaigns to the table, and really understanding the value of that. And we're so fortunate to have so many good biking options in Central Oregon, and the views, and I mean, whether it's road, mountain, gravel, whatever, I mean, it's incredible. It's a giant playground. And so it was an easy one for us to identify and say, let's just double and triple down on this thing and really go for it.
So I have the gift of talking to 15 people in a single day, which I take as, I love doing this stuff. But one of the things I've been asking people to do is write a question for the next person without knowing who that person is.
Boy.
And so I've got a question for you, and then when we're done, I would love for you to write a question for the next person, but I won't tell you who they are. So your question is, what is your destination? I know it's larger than it, but like, what is your destination doing to prepare for the World Cup?
What are we doing for the World Cup? We're taking a little bit of a different approach on this one, I think, than a lot of folks. We So I'm going to back up to sort of lay some groundwork for this question. Little over a year ago, adopted a new 5-year strategic plan at VCO. As part of that process, we went through 7 years worth of data and stakeholder interviews and all kinds of stuff. And as part of that process, what we found that we didn't expect to find was that global sales and international travel to Central Oregon is nowhere near as significant of a chunk of our revenue as we thought it was. And so we pulled back on a lot of those efforts last year. So keeping that in mind, what we're really looking at with the World Cup this year is for us, we don't look at it as a marketing opportunity. We look at it as an opportunity to collect data and really figure out, can we verify that decision? Do we need to change that course? Do we need to go the other direction? And so we're looking at like something I'm excited about. We've worked with our data partners to, obviously we have all of our POIs and everything in our region, but we've geo-fenced some of the gateway stadiums in the gateway cities, some of those airports that they fly into, and then we'll run cross-visitation reports and we'll figure out what was the lift or what wasn't the lift. And so we're really using the World Cup as a chance to either validate or invalidate that strategy, and then we'll make changes in 27 based on what we learn in 26. So we think we'll see some pass-through traffic, I'm sure, but we're gonna try and figure out if we're on the right path or not. That's really our goal.
I got the sense that you have a sense of what it's going to tell you before you do it, but I think it's interesting that you're playing in that space.
Well, I do, but I'm one of those people too who's like always, I'm never afraid to have a conversation, explore. Like I'm never married to any one set solution, and if we get it wrong, we get it wrong. And if we get it right, we get it right. It doesn't really matter either way. I just want to make sure we're on the right track. Behaviors change. Inbound travel right now is kind of a disaster. The visa process is bad. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. Scott, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.